Hey, it's the Chief bonding with board games and RPGs, coming to you with Season 2 of the Orphans Twilight 2004E. You can also see 1E and 2E out here on the table. Now, I've come to a decision. This will be the final episode for Season 2 of the Orphans. And this episode is going to encapsulate them getting their experience. Now, stay tuned, because at the end, I'm going to go into what Season 3 will be, which little teaser will be Hostile Waters. It will be traveling the Vistula to Warsaw. And the quick decision for this is I had Pirates of the Vistula from the original edition, but I really wanted to get those cards with Hostile Waters. And 2, which we'll talk about more near the end, I wanted to have enough time to spend on the river. I didn't want to feel rushed, because the goal is to get to Warsaw and get the gold. I don't know, is the river, how much different it's going to be from the road we took to get to where we are. But we'll talk about that at the end, and I really will have some questions for everyone to put in the comments in regards to how the seasons are progressing, some of my thoughts, and where it will go from here. Enough said, I can't wait to get on the water. But coming back to the experience, let's do this first. So I wanted to focus the experience on what this trip has been. I haven't been cataloging it as we go, and because it's solo, it doesn't feel fair to give everybody like an experience for every single session. So I came up with the idea that it's going to be more representative of what the trip was. Now, I have created a full-out character sheet for Sanchez. Before, he was on one of my little short addendums, but I believe, especially 2 episodes ago, no, it was just last episode, where he kind of partnered with Casimir and put to rest the folks that had been piked. I thought he needs his own character sheet. So I've created one of those, again, based on the little half sheet I already had for him. But everyone is also, just for being along on this campaign, which is going to be Casimir, Kanan Krieg, Major, Timothy McGriffin, and Sanchez, are going to get a raise in their stamina. Just this trip was a bit grueling. So they're going to be kind of toughened by this road trip. They'll rise up 1. They'll either use 5 just as a caveat to get them into that D, which means a D6 if they're ever doing anything stamina related. Or I believe Sanchez, I'll have to look, McGiffin was already at a D. He's just going to automatically go up to the C. Now, there is a deal where you would pay 5 to go get a brand new skill, 10 to move up to the next. But we're going to just do this as default, and then we're going to use survival as well. Just being out on the road, knowing some of these areas that were dangerous, learning and seeing some of the things they've seen, that's what we're going to do. So by character, I have Casimir. Now, Casimir already has a C in stamina. I hadn't even looked at him, so he's going to move up to a B. Just this slog being with these troops, the training that he's picking up, not by osmosis, but by doing, is quite nice for his stamina. The ability to stay on point, stay focused. While we're on him, I want to look at driving skill. My belief is that while they were doing this road trip, they would have been sharing out some of the drivings in some of the simpler areas. So Casimir has no experience in that. I believe he would have gained at least some, and he will move up to a D in driving, especially with the youth. I could see him, driving, taking his turn at the Toyota. Survival will go up 1 level. Casimir's already maxed out on this. He's a young kid who's been watching over his 2 brothers, now only 1. He's not going to increase in this. He's already maxed out. About the major thing he gained here is a greater sphere of what is off to the east in Poland. I think we don't know his whole history, but pretty insular. So he's opened up his worldview a little bit, but that's not going to improve his survival. He's already at the top. He's doing great. Let's move on to Kanan. Kanan, of course, is our sociopath. His stamina, I don't have it listed as anything on here. He's going to move up to D. He's used to living in a little bit more luxury. He's kind of made sure that's been the case, and as the president of PIMGIM, he definitely had the luxury. Driving, of course, he picked up a little bit as well. It's his own vehicle. I think it's almost like Casimir, where he had to take his time at the wheel. And then his survival was C. I'm going to move it up to B. This was probably a decent trip for Krieg as far as that, but you also saw him not being able to hide some of his personality flaws, as in taking joy or reverie in the torture of the piked people. So that was something that was on display for everybody to see, and I think kind of woke Casimir up. So, but Kanan moves up a little bit. I'm going to next go to Major McGiffin. Same thing with McGiffin. I don't think the Major's been doing much driving. I don't think he would have had a problem. At the very least, he's learned how to drive that Georgian armored vehicle. A little bit of experience there. His stamina was D. I think a major in the military, especially that had been over there, seen some things, but we know he was kind of in like a fallback unit that then got left behind, if you remember from season 1. His stamina is going to improve to C, which will give him a D8. And under survival, he was a D. This was big for him. I think he's been a little bit, as far as a major in the military can get, I believe a little bit protected. Well, he's not anymore. That was a pretty interesting trip, and he did a good job of negotiating with the giving over of the mortar. His empathy, command, and persuasion are pretty good, decent. His coolness under fire is a B. We're going to move that up to A. I think getting out there and commanding is what he does, and he's not one to crack. Sanchez, our last one. Again, his sheet not nearly as filled out because I went off of the half sheet that we already had, but stamina will just go to D. Driving to D. And survival to D. Just picked up a little bit of everything. So bring him up to 6. Coolness under fire, already had him at A. He was a Marine. He's been in some things. Contractor for PIMGIM. Good to go. That is going to be the farming out of the experience. Now, as they've landed in this city that borders the Vistula and is a bit of a cornucopia, the waterways are now much more efficient for commerce, and the cities along those waterways are experiencing that. They've landed in this city. They have a connection with the Russian Spetsnaz. Vladislav, who knew Sylvester on the armed tugboat. Again, season 3 will be our action along the river. No guarantee on when that's going to happen, but I fully intend to learn that new waterway subset and then dive into the traveling along the waterway. So my ideas as we go, and then we're going to come back to this season, is I believe season 3 will be all along the Vistula, and we will end season 3 in my mind now when they get to Warsaw. I don't know if that when they get to Warsaw, the gold, wherever Krieg knows it is, will still be there. So once they get there and arrive and discover, is the gold there? Is some of the gold there? Is all of the gold there? Whatever they have, that will be the end of season 3. But it'll be a trek water-wise to experience whatever's going on along the Vistula. What I really want to cover is how part of this season went. So, Never Fear 1911, very good with comments, letting me know that early on for him it felt like it was dragging a bit. And I don't disagree, but not in defense, but I didn't know how this episode was going to go. I had pictured in my mind before I started, kind of like how I just explained how I think season 3 will lay out, that I actually thought Casimir and his brother Eddick might end up leaving the base that Krieg ran, and they would be out on their own just trying to survive. I did not know it was going to start focusing. It's almost like Krieg demanded the attention. I loved when the Russians showed up, and I felt like they needed to get a little bit of exposition to see who they are, so I knew who they were. But that, along with how the court process was going, Never Fear's points to me, and correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, Never Fear, you're always watching, is that he felt like it was dragging a little bit. The action was slow to ramp up. And at the end, or near last episode, he commented he felt that there was almost no combat here. And he's right. And what's funny is I kind of lean toward combat. And I was a little surprised as things weren't leading their way down combat. And to keep the show flowing, I step away from the hardline kind of miniatures rules that a lot of Twilight 2004E has, and I use Mythic to resolve a few things as we're moving, kind of like the shootout with the auto theft. So, put your comments in if you dislike that. I love the dice system here, and maybe I should have even relied upon that a little bit more when the shooting did happen. I'll give you some of my thoughts, is that within the show, sometimes it can start to grind down. And the auto theft in particular, even as I edit it, felt like how Spetsnaz would have pulled off the auto theft. That's a risky move, walking up to a place and stealing a vehicle. You're definitely not going to steal the wheel right there. The idea of get the vehicle out, and then if you want, just take the wheel or wheels is how it would be done. Once that decision was made during gameplay, I thought, well, the sniper would hang back in a perfect spot to cover, and would cover with lethal force. And anybody rushing out because their truck got started would be at a terrible disadvantage for a sniper. Just terrible. And then that led to having the heavy weapons Spetsnaz, positioned just 100 yards. 100 yards with a heavy machine gun at a front door and a window is easy, extremely easy. And the idea that that would be the cover fire so that truck could get out of there and then pick up as you go is why I just went with some things are going to happen here. The folks that got that sprung on them, it would have happened pretty much as it did, I believe, in the show. So what I would really hope for from anybody watching is please send me some comments here on what you liked and what you didn't like about this season. Season 1 is still getting good numbers. That episode 1 is still climbing. And I get people that will comment and tell me that even though the episodes are long and there's multiple episodes, that it drew them from episode to episode. Now, it's not killing. I'm not getting like 1,000 per show, but everything is climbing incrementally. And a lot of people are still watching episode 1, so they're diving in. This one going point to point on the cities and using the cards for special events and the mythic system, I thought it worked, but I was a little surprised with combat. I thought there might be more, but what I kind of recognized as we went, our vehicles, the BTR-80 and the Georgian armored car, are very well set up. And our guys are not without fuel, they're not without food, and they're not without ammunition and heavy weapons. I do believe at this point, short of running into the tank like they avoided, the way they did the recon with the Toyota truck, I felt like their plan was to mitigate a lot of this. And Vladislav had traveled this road before. Not that he knew everything, but he'd been on it. So to me, it played out fairly realistically. But it ended up being a season of surprises for me, where it was more exposition and learning about some of these individuals. I got to admit, I kind of like the Russians. Vladislav and his attitude, if it would have been a bunch of people got killed and Vladislav and Afanya were the only ones left, I would have been like, yeah, I'm good. I can just switch over to them for the next season. So I felt they stole the show a little bit, kind of like Krieg did in the first one, even though it was based on him. His inability to shoot was awesome. And then he came through in the end. If you haven't seen season 2, please do. So I'm going to wrap there. No date on when I'll be back with season 3. Just know my plan is it will be all along the Vistula. I'll have the new rule set by then. I'll have the cards for that. And I think that'll be a nice tight season. We'll just be traveling down the Vistula and spending a little time. I was sitting here wondering if I did the Vistula, how long would we be on it? And I started to feel like I might even be rushed if I tried to put it into season 1 or season 2. And that's why I thought, let me just make that another season. And that way, if it's a beautiful, brutal, hostile meander down the Vistula to Warsaw, we can experience it. There's my plan. Season 2, The Orphans, is over. Please, please give me comments. Give me suggestions. I'm trying to improve my solo play as I go. Anything you have to offer in terms of even criticism, I'll fully listen to and accept. Trust me, 1911, never fear, gives me some criticism, and I don't mind at all. It's the only way you get better. Chief, bonding with board games and RPGs. I will see you back for season 3. And don't forget, like, subscribe, and check out the playlists on all the other series I have going. I have a whole deal on Neuralink, the whole Elon Musk thing I'm doing. There's Blade Runner, which is actually my fastest growing, and I've got the live Maze Rats and getting ready to start Knave Rats, which is the Ben Milton book Knave 2E that I'm going to be running live here soon. Again, Chief, bonding with board games and RPGs. See ya.